Hey guys, Brian Savage with you here, and this is part 2 of the DIY delay. And I didn't mention in the first video, this came from, if you haven't watched any of the others, the unboxing or the overdrive pedal that I built yesterday. This came from thefretwire.com, and they have I told the story yesterday. I wanted different color housings. These showed black housings, and I emailed them, and they were definitely able to switch out the housings colors for me. I think it depends on which ones you're building on whether I can do that, but check with them and they'll let you know. They're out of Utah, and they got right back with me really nice. And Sam, if you get to see this one, that was the customer service rep, I believe, at thefretwire.com. THEFRETWIRE, no spaces.com. That is their website. They hooked me up. I've looked at a whole lot of different sites on these pedals, and I'm looking at the components. Components are comparable to about anything you're going to find else on the market. Let's get started. Enough plugging them. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the sockets. And as you can see, these little ears are bent, so we got to take the time to very gingerly straighten all these out. And this is a tedious task. A lot of this stuff is kind of a tedious task. Just take your time. That there wants to be a booger. But always want to be that one. Don't want to line up. And I don't know if you'll see it. See how there's a little notch right there and not on that side? Look in the PCB board. There's a picture, little notch, no notch. I like to start at one end this way and stick them in, making sure that they all line up. Do it easy. Right there's one that doesn't want to fit. This is where this little screwdriver comes in handy. Go from the end. I got to push it out. There. It's in there. Dip lined it. Little dip lined up with a little dip. Turn it over on its back side here. I like things to set kind of level, and that's not setting level, so let me slide that underneath there. Go too much. Turn around. There we go. Soldering. Tip clean. We do what we're called tint or tinge, or I don't even know how they pronounce it. Basically, you want to take a little bit of solder. My tip's loose. Lordy be. How bad is that? That's not good practice, Brian. Can't go around loose tipped. Sharpen that point a little bit on there. Some corrosion on there. Alright, now it should be ready. Good, clean tip, tight. We'll start at one side, put a little bit of solder on the tip. And there we go. Now I'm going to go over to the opposite side, opposite corner. And there we go there. The reason I do that, one, is to transfer heat around. Now again, this is just a socket, so it doesn't matter quite as much, but you can melt the socket, but for sure with too much heat. But that holds it in place. Now I know it's in there, it's flush against the PCB, and it's ready to go. So, let's go through and I'll skip around back over to the other side. And when you're doing this, the biggest thing is to make sure you don't get any, what they call solder bridges, where your piece of solder goes and connects something on the PCB that is not meant to be connected. Sounds hard to do, but very easy to do. And it is harder to correct than it is to do. A lot of times. I have personally, in practicing, I have ruined PCBs. Using too much heat, not keeping my tip clean, not tinging first. All those things, I've done them and ruined PCBs, made solder joints. Usually when you're making solder joints, you're using too much solder. It only takes a little bit, guys. It don't take much at all. Okay. On this side, I'm going to turn this around. These little pieces that stick up do not stick up that far. I don't worry about trimming these off. I know some people do. I don't. I only trim up what really sticks up. Better not hum any copyrighted music or YouTube will get all pissy. Haha. Again, guys, this is what you asked for. I think this is the boring part, and usually I got some good old rock and roll music or some blues. I'm lucky that there's a guy just down in the shopping center that has a vintage vinyl shop, and he's actually got some new vinyl in there too. But I bought a Johnny Winter's Nothing But the Blues album a couple days ago, and man alive, I've just been really enjoying that, and been listening to that here recently, and that's what I listened to yesterday when the camera wasn't rolling. And I know that, like I said, YouTube doesn't like you to do copyrighted material. I don't know how they are about me playing it in the background. I don't know, and I don't want to try it, and I don't want to press it. I'll turn my extra light on here. Sometimes with the shininess, it's hard to tell. Alright, we're in there. That's good. Next socket. Clean that tip. Now, what I've got here, off to the side, I've got an old ashtray with a wet sponge in it, and that's what I use to set the iron against. And keep the sponge in to clean that tip. Wipe that tip off, clean that tip. That is my top tip, is clean your tip. Alright, the next socket, and it was pristine, not bent at all, goes in the next socket slot. Again, looking for, you You can see it there. Yeah, you can make it out against my finger now. That little dip, and it's not in that side. Make sure you're sticking it when you stick it in there. You see that little thing. Oh, another thing too. These have windows cut in them so that you can see inside. With the lighting, it's not going to let me see. Well, there you can see it. That writing inside there. That writing inside there coincides with the writing on the chip. Make sure that you line those writings up. For instance, this one, the writing goes this way, so it would be like that. And this one here, the writing on the board goes that way, so it would actually be opposite direction, upside down and going that way to this other one. So make sure if you have one that doesn't, one of these sockets that doesn't have a window in it, and you're looking on the board and it has something like that written, make sure that you do go ahead and take note of that, because that is the way that that chip has to plug into this socket. If you do not plug it in there that way, it won't work right. Or at least that's what I've been told. It burned the chip up. I don't know. I've never done it to find out, and I don't plan to. So, usually when something like that, if somebody tells me something like that on that kind of stuff, I usually tend to believe them. Alright. And that little piece of solder is getting too short. A little warm on the fingers. Let's try this a different way here. Again, we do this corner. I'm going to spin it around and go to the exact opposite corner, and that's going to lock that piece in place. A whole lot better. Oop. Another little soldering tip. Solder follows the heat. That makes sense to you? It flows into the heat. So you want to heat up where you want it to go and then stick it to it. And so there we got each of the two little opposite ends. There. There. The jock socketed in the chip socket. A touch more. Yeah, dagnabbit. Touched iron in the wrong spot. Got a little ball of solder on here. Now, if you got a wire like this and you end up getting a little ball on it, that little ball is bigger and it takes more heat to get that to melt. And I find that it makes it just want to make a big drop. We don't want drops and gloops. Drops and gloops is where solder bridges come into play. Solder bridges is the enemy of all electronic, especially the DIY guy like myself. Where are we at time-wise on this video? We're about 15 minutes in. I'm going to make each one of these say keep it under a half hour, because to me, again, this is pretty boring. I mentioned earlier I've been listening to some Johnny Winter's Nothing But the Blues. If you are a Johnny Winters fan, make a comment. Let me know your favorite Johnny Winters album. Give me something to look for. I like vinyl. I like listening to vinyl. For me, that's just a little more fun. Now, I put those sockets in there. I'm not going to put these chips in here yet. Again, these are very heat sensitive, and I got a lot of components to solder around them. I like putting these jacks in there first because it gives me a little bit of room on the board. So now when I put in a resistor and I pop that thing through there and I flip it over on its back, it doesn't fall all the way out, and it won't fall any farther, separate any farther from the board than this distance. Sometimes I like stuff up off the board. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and let's put in the components that say "Lay down, Sally." It says lay down. Let's start with this one of these 823s. We'll go on the outside and move in. 823. I like to put it in so that when I lay it down I'll be able to see the numbers. Okay. Now when I'm looking here, that's really close when I lay that down to those two resistors right there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that back out. And I think I'm going to put those resistors in first. Yeah, I think I'm going to change my mind and do the resistors first. How many, we only have one of these little transistors. And it goes right here, and you can see the little shape, flat, half circle. See how it's shaped, flat, half circle. Number 78L05. I look on this, it says 78L05. It does not say it needs to lay down. Beside it is a 47 cap. One lays down and one does not. It just kills me. I don't get it. The reason I'm sticking this, on capacitors, it does have a positive side and negative side listed. Again, the side with the stripes, the negative, or another way to look at it, you see there's two length of legs, long legs the positive. Coincidentally, that's the same way with an LED. Long leg positive, short leg negative. If the legs have been clipped, I'm not going to pull that out there to show you, but anyway, there's one flat side and one rounded side. You can use that method on the LED itself. But anyway, long leg positive, so we're going to put this in towards the positive. And the only reason I'm sticking this in here is I want this cap just to barely stand proud of the board. So I stuck it through and then bent the legs over so it's just proud. A little too much. Sticking out a little too much. Have to rebend that. Got to be careful. There we go. There we go. I don't know if you'll be able to tell it, but oh, there's no way you're going to be able to see underneath that. But anyway, there's just a little bit of room under that cap. The reason I did that is because I want quite a bit more room under this transistor The reason I want quite a bit more room under the transistor is I like it to stand up a little bit. I just don't get why some of those have to lay down. But it says lay down, we'll lay it down. Must be something in the... Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out later. I think that might be where the output jacks have to go. Alright. We got that setting up there correctly. Oh, don't use that. Be smart. Here we go. There we go. Clean tip. Once more into the breech. One leg. I know it looks like I'm holding it on there a lot. I'm not. A lot of times I got it just off of it, the iron itself, that you can't see. Because I'm always double and triple checking, making sure I'm not pushing it in somewhere it shouldn't be. Alright. Because really, once I do stick it to it, it's just a quick hot boom boom and it's there. It doesn't take very long at all. If you're finding that you're holding it on there and it's taking forever, one, clean your tip. Two, put a little solder on the tip before you stick it down there. And what I mean by that is, you see I just rubbed the solder against it. And I don't know if you'll be able to make it out, but there's just on the very end that little shiny little teeny bit. Man, that little shiny teeny bit makes all the heat transfer in the world difference. Okay. Now, there's the transistor. Let's look at this capacitor we stuck in there to hold shape. We'll go ahead and, since it's there, and sometimes when I'm holding this down here, it looks like I'm holding it against it. I'm not. I'm actually putting the solder to the tip to get a little on it. Happy with that. Like right now, I'm not even touching the PCB board. Okay, now I'm touching. Touch it with the solder. Boom, done. That quick. Again, it's because I'm keeping my tip clean, wiping it off on this sponge, and more importantly, just raking the solder across the tip of it. Just tick, 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 just to get a little tiny little bead of ball solder on the end of that tip, and that will make everything go so much faster. Okay, now them legs I am going to snippy off. The reason we snip these bad puppies off now is so they're not in the way of the next. Now I don't snip them off real short right now. For no other reason than these clippers are big and bulky and aren't real precise in getting in there, and I go over every single one of them with fingernail clippers. I may not, even if I clip it down good and I don't clip it off, I'll look at it with the fingernail clippers and clip off the little excesses that stick up, and that gives me a lot more precise, a lot less chance of me scratching something on the PCB board up or something like that. So anyway, that's how I like to do that. Alright. .560, 102. Let's knock these out one at a time. see the 102. I see no 560. I got a 581. $223. I don't have any 223 cap either. I got 273 cap. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. It's a 103 cap there. That little 1K resistor right there is going to be a booger to get down in there. Let's do it now. 12K, 1K. There's one 1K resistor. Where's the other one at? There's only two of these things. I'm going to knock them both out at once. Where are we at on time? Alright. 1 meg. And we got that in the 1K. Oh, there it is. Okay. Alright. Stick this thing in here. Now, I like to, whenever I bend these legs, what I like to do is take my pliers, hold the leg on the resistor side, bend the leg down on the plier side, so that these sometimes can, well, you hit it in shot. When you just try to bend that, you can break it. Not break the wire, you break the ceramic and make it useless. I got that one a little too wide. That's okay. There's no positive negative side to these resistors. So what I like to do is they're all the same value. So they all have the brown stripe at one end. Some of them are brown at both ends, but they're all going to be brown at one end. I'm going to make all the brown sides go that way. And down. Why? I don't know. Just for giggles, I guess. Just so it looks good, clean, and consistent. Again, I look at my component and I want it to just where, I don't want it to set on the board. Some people put it against the board. Some people say it's, don't put it against the board. I don't know. I myself, I know these things create heat, space around them. Seems like a good thing to me, but yet there is the possibility if it's in a suspension or a suspended mode, it could easier for it to rattle loose, I guess, or shake around, or in the case of some things be microphonic, but these ain't tubes, they're resistors and transistors, so I don't think I gotta worry about microphonics. Got some garbage on my tip. Alright, well that brings me about the 30-minute mark. So, I'm going to continue to do this all the way across the board, putting in all these little pieces. The one things I won't wire up, I won't stick in the wires yet, or anything like that. And I won't put this in here yet. It's just a matter of sticking all these little parts in here like it says, and solder them up. So, that should give you a basic insight. I'm not going to show you the rest of soldering this up. Next video will be after we get this soldered up, we set it aside, we start talking about chassis layout, and we're going to again go in more depth. I'll show you how I measured it out, how I figured out what I'm going to do where. We'll go a little more in depth than what I did yesterday on the overdrive. Till then guys, share the music, share the love. Peace out.